Hi everyone, today we will go through the Opus 25 number 6, the double thirds etude. And this is one of the hardest Chopin etudes, in my opinion, together with the Opus 10 number 2. Now, in one of my last videos, I discussed the Feu Follet etude and how it is a bit similar to this one. However, the difference is the interval size basically is the difference here, because while we have double notes, in Feu Follet we have them more spread apart, and in this one it is reduced down to double thirds. So the first question is, how do we play the double thirds and how do they come together? Because this is a huge problem for many people, that when they play basically the thirds, they don't come at the same time, and so it kind of falls apart. So this is the first problem we need to address here. For me, it's always about the feedback. So when I play something and I don't have enough feedback, then I don't really know what I'm doing. So for the thirds etude, it would be, if you don't know precisely what you're doing, then the notes may come at different times. So first of all, you want to know what movement you're doing, and it is a very slight rotation, depending on your fingering, which I will get to in a minute. But the rotation, if you, for example, do 1-4-2-5, let's say, is a very, very slight. It's a very slight rotation, which some people, especially if you're just learning about double thirds, you might not necessarily know what you're doing. You might have heard the word rotation, and you might be overdoing your rotation. And what happens then is that you kind of have this disconnect here, where one hand is not going to be on time, basically, due to the rotation. And for example, if you look, this finger here will be too late to press the C sharp. So this would be a huge problem. So first of all, you want to have a minimal rotation, but a slight one, just slight. And then you want to practice in different ways. First of all, slowly and forte. Same like I said for the Feu Follet etude. Same thing is that you're going to have a forte, like this, and really feel each of the intervals, feel each third. Now, the reason why I do this is because I want to get the active feedback, and the feedback helps me then later with the feeling of how the piece goes. So the feedback is important, in my opinion, in order to really feel the thirds coming at the same time. The second thing I always recommend to do, also for Feu Follet etude, for example, is to have one voice being legato, and so on, and then one voice, well, this voice then being staccato and the other being legato. So, and the reason why we do this is because we want to create independence down the middle, like I've already explained. So basically, you have one voice being legato, these two would be legato then, and the second time they would be staccato, and the same for 4-5, and then staccato the second time. And this really trains all your voices independently, and in the end you will have much more security, and you will really have this kind of active feedback of what each individual voice is doing, which I think is really important. Okay, now let's discuss fingerings. There are different options here. So there is, for example, 1-3-2-5, there is 1-3-2-4, and what I personally, well, there's also 1-4-2-5, which I've already shown. What I personally do is 2-4-1-5. And this might seem a bit counterintuitive to some people, but it really allows me to get leverage. So leverage is what I want. And for me, this one, first of all, it feels very comfortable. And second of all, especially in the tempo, it really allows me to get the leverage that I need. So it's a bit of a different feeling than compared to the rotation. It's more of a pulling down kind of sensation. You can try it, 2-4-1-5. It's the fingering that I use and some other people use. I think it is highly personal which fingering you use here. You can try a bunch of different fingerings for the beginning. This is just what I personally use because of my hand and what I feel most comfortable with. Now, the reason why the first two bars are so difficult, just like for example on din beginning, is the reason because the left hand is not doing anything. So we need to do something here. What I quite like to do, now remember, we want to practice in forte, but the actual piece we are in sotto voce here. So what I like to do is to do a long bow, phrasing bow, over the first two bars 8 times basically. So I quite like to have a little bit of a phrasing bow, dynamic bow over these first two bars. And by the way, I would recommend the same for ondine, so that you have a bit of direction, and also it makes it easier technically. And also it just doesn't make it thirds that appear, for 8 times, which is really not what we want to show here. We want to have many different colors. We want to create an atmosphere. Remember guys, this is an etude, but at the end of the day, it is a piece of music which we need to present, and we need to make it beautiful. Everywhere you want to actually be quite cool, let's say, in how you present the right hand, and you want to really focus on bringing out the melodic element in the left hand here. One place to do so, for example, is with these chords in bar 5, where you can voice the thumb of the left hand. Like this, for example. Getting back to technique, however, in bar 3 is basically the same, but bar 4, I quite like to do this kind of a bit more exaggerated rotation, and a bit up and down also on the wrist. It really helps me to get this in tempo. So a bit up and down with the wrist, and then practice, of course, a lot the thumb, and then individually again the outer voices, that in the end basically you have the independent, and then you can repeat this many times to build the security, because I think in the beginning this bar might be awkward for you because it's going back and forth. So what you can do is you can loop it many times, so that in the end, when it only appears one time, you will have no problem playing it. Jumping method, which would be, this will help you later on in the tempo have a bit of attack, and this is a trap many people fall into. So according to my latest knowledge, still okay and allowed in competitions.